So I'm Katharine Arnold. I am an aerialist and I teach aerial here on the degree. So it's a bit of a convoluted story. I was doing a dance and theatre degree and I was working with a physical theatre company and started doing a little bit of trapeze. And I kind of got the bug and I actually started coming here to do adult evening classes. This is in like 99, I think, so over 20 years ago. And I then met this company that were around here then called the Flying Dudes, that were a flying trapeze live music company, and I ended up touring and working with them for a couple of years, and they taught me a lot. So that was sort of my route in, was actually flying trapeze, although I haven't done much since then. So, I mean, I've been working professionally for 20 years, so I won't tell you all of it because it would be really long and boring. But I sort of trained a bit all over the shop. I did a theatre and dance degree, but it wasn't a circus specific degree. And then I trained with this company, the Flying Dudes. I trained for a year and I was working at a place called the Friedrichstadtpalast in Berlin, which is a sort of big revue show. So I was in that show and I was training at the school in Berlin for the whole year that I was doing that. And then I've done bits and pieces of training in Montreal and all over, really, sort of private classes. But I guess I'm sort of self-taught in a way. And career highlights, I mean, I think I spent a year working with Tim Burton on the Dumbo movie as the main character's stunt double and as her aerial coach. This time last year, actually, I was about to do a show with Cirque du Soleil in Madison Square Gardens in New York, so that was pretty cool, spending Christmas in New York with Cirque. The Olympics, I worked on the Olympic Games, I choreographed the Paralympics aerial number, it was 20 aerialists. And I work a lot with a company called Black Cat, and we created the show together a couple of years ago that we did in the Spiegel Tent in the South Bank, so I've done quite a lot of more sort of creative work with them, as well as performing. But just everything, really. It's all been great. There's sort of, there's nothing that I regret. The main thing that influences my teaching work probably is the students. I've had lots of conversations about this, but for me, I think that each student is so different that it's kind of impossible to have like a one-size-fits-all approach to teaching, and you have to just take each student as they come and see what they need. Some students work really well visually, some people are really good at breaking things down if you tell them verbally. And yeah, I guess I'm sort of quite an instinctive teacher in a way. I just go off the student. I try to make sure that I've got a kind of overall general plan, lesson plan and progression, but yeah, it's definitely more to do with the relationship between me and the specific student. Something that's been really good the last couple of years is that we've been going to the festival in Osh, which is it's called Circa, and it's all of the schools globally, all the Circa schools come together, and all the students do little piece that they've created. And then we've also had this extra thing from FedEx where we've been kind of having meetings and seminars to talk about teaching practice and teaching technique and how to get the best out of students and that kind of thing. And that's been really interesting and really invaluable because I think all the schools have kind of learned a lot from each other in the way that they work, and also just to see which school, what comes out of each different school, because the students are so different and what they produce is so different. So that's kind of, I think it's really good for people to know that there is communication between all of the schools, and that they sort of do talk to each other. hopefully they cover everything. Hopefully they learn everything they need to know. Again, you know, I think that if I look at all of the students that have graduated that I've taught over the years, everybody's so individual and so different. So it's not like that, you know, there's a sort of list of tricks and I go, here you go, you're going to have this by the time you leave, because it totally depends on, you know, what they want to do as well, what their influences are, whether they, you know, are more movement-based, whether they're really into dynamic stuff. But I suppose a basis of good technique is really important for me. My background before I started doing any circus was ballet, so I kind of think that it's really important to understand movement quality, ways of moving, and musicality for me is really important as well in aerial acts. But yeah, a bit of everything. Anatomy, how the body works, how to train safely, how to train autonomously, and you know, and I think it's a collaboration as well, so I'm always very willing to listen to what the student wants. If they've seen something that's particularly inspired them that they want to try, you know, I'm sort of open to ideas from them as much as me giving them stuff. Right, so I mean, obviously, there's an added health and safety element now because of COVID. So we've got extra security measures in place in terms of health and safety relating to coronavirus. But normally, the students will get taught how to safely tie off their knots, how to rig their equipment safely, and all that sort of thing, but we also always oversee it. I use a lunge in classes if a student is trying something new that they're not comfortable with. You know, we have lunges available we can use. I would always have crash mats underneath. We usually don't get them to work at height until they're comfortable with things. So, you know, mostly when you begin aerial, you're working quite low, and then we'd only take things higher up into the air once they're okay with that.